Hi, I'm Kelsey from Coaching with Kelsey, and today we're going to talk about the difference between preparing and worrying. Before we get into the difference between preparing versus worrying, let's talk about worrying and get really clear on it. So, when I talk to my clients about worrying, I talk about it in terms of feeling pain ahead of time. Sometimes you can switch out what this pain feeling is. Maybe it's feeling fear ahead of time. Maybe it's feeling failure ahead of time. But in a general sense, we are just feeling pain ahead of time. We do this by telling ourselves a negative story. And what I mean by this is when we're worrying, we're imagining the worst case scenarios of things that haven't happened yet but could happen. And so, in this way, the logic is that we are somehow preparing by feeling disappointment ahead of time. The idea being if you feel it now, maybe it won't hurt as bad later, which I think we've all realized at some point or another isn't really accurate. It always still hurts if it happens. And the reality is that a lot of times this thing that we're so afraid of, the thing we're worrying about, the outcome we don't want to happen, that we are feeling pain ahead of time about, never actually comes to fruition. And so we've just spent all this time feeling pain about something that never happens. Other times, we may unintentionally influence the thing we don't want to happen through our fear. And what I mean by that, just as an example, is like, let's say you're in a relationship and you're afraid that you are not good enough for your partner or that your partner isn't attracted to you, and you worry on this and you have all these outcomes in your head that involve your partner leaving you, which creates a lot of mistrust. You don't trust that your partner loves you, and in long term that takes a toll on the relationship, and perhaps you and your partner do end up splitting up. And at the end of it, perhaps you think, I was right the whole time, when in reality, this was a slow process of disintegration of their relationship because you were living in the fear and the pain. There's this correlation that happens in our brains that isn't accurate, which is that when we worry and the outcome that we don't want does happen, we think, I was right the whole time. And when we worry and the outcome we're afraid of does not happen, we think it didn't happen because we spent all that time worrying about it. Neither of these things are really true. The reality is that going through the human experience and the human life means that there will be times where we get the thing we want, and there will be times where we don't. And sometimes we have influence over this, and sometimes we don't. And that will remain true whether we choose to live our lives in a worry spiral or not. We have spent a lot of time talking about worrying. Let's now really get into the difference between worrying and preparing. Like I've already kind of talked about, worrying wants you to think that it is preparing, but it is not. So let's talk about the differences between what preparing looks like and what worrying looks like. So, in the way that worrying is about imagining negative outcomes and potential negative scenarios, which is all up in your head, like preparing is more about making a plan. So there's more of a sense of taking an action versus worrying, which is more about inaction and freezing up. You can also think about this as preparing has boundaries, like time boundaries, in the way that there is a start point and a stop point. Worrying has no constraints. It will overwhelm you. It will take over your whole day. It will, like we said with inaction, it will keep you from doing other things. Whereas preparing is very conscious. You are choosing it. Worrying, you're not often just consciously choosing to worry, it is sort of controlling you. And finally, worrying and preparing, I would say, are both actions, and our actions are fueled by how we feel. So worrying is going to be fueled by an emotion, often things like fear and anxiety, and preparing is also fueled by an emotion. It's just a different kind of emotion. And some of the ones I thought about were like determination and even maybe like understanding. Like understanding that there is an obstacle in front of you that perhaps you are nervous about, but like understanding that with preparation, like you can make it through. So maybe also like another one would be like trust, self-trust, might propel you towards taking actions related to preparing yourself for something. Thank you so much for watching this video. I apologize if the sound is not amazing. I have my windows open. I'm enjoying the beautiful fall weather. I'm sorry if the lighting kind of sucks. I have my lights off because I have a bit of a headache, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video, the content of it, and if you do have any thoughts on worrying versus preparing and your experience with that, please let me know. I'd love to chat more about it, and so you can go ahead and like leave a comment or send me a message. And as always, if you're interested in learning more about working with me and what my program looks like, you can sign up for a free consultation, which you can find the link to in my Instagram bio or on my website or down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Thanks again, and I will talk to you next time.